There was nothing else at all in the whole world but football.
Hi guys, hope you're all well. Simon here from the Triple F again, and welcome to another Triple F show. This is another one of those heavily Arsenal themed episodes, as I'm joined by host and creator of the excellent Republic of Arsenal podcast, Anthony. We addressed the disappointing Europa League elimination last Thursday, Arteta's tenure so far, and the priority positions that Arsenal should target in the upcoming summer transfer window. But before we start, I just wanted to show you an example of how not to drink water. Whilst chatting, I tried swigging some water, but it went so wrong. Here it is.
You see, when he comes up against Pep Guardiola, you know he's just going to try something. It's almost as a way of saying, look at me, look what I learned from you, that kind of thing. And
sorry about
not worse when that happens.
Oh man, it was going so well.
Yeah. I'd offer you some of my water, but
oh god, I'm so sorry, dude. That was genuine, by the way. I wasn't like disagreeing with what you said.
As soon as I mentioned
that barely never happens to me, but sod's law.
That is the worst. It's always the way.
It's a good job. That's why I don't do lives, mate. Exactly. Nobody will know about this apart from my watery eyes now. Oh god.
You just say it's been an emotional season.
Yeah, exactly, man. Oh, sorry about that, dude. That was terrible.
All good.
Better than
Once that starts, you just
game
over.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I'll try to cover this up, but no, I couldn't. Oh, it's just when it goes down the wrong way, man. Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's a killer. Absolutely. I'm waiting for the day it happens to me.
Yeah. Just be careful how you drink your water now, man.
I had a bad one night where I was in the middle of speaking, and it was only I caught the teeth, and I was kind of going, what's going on here? And I see all this red stuff, and I was like, what's? And I kind of sat there and went like that. And my mouth started bleeding, and there was blood because I was using but like the clear aligners for your teeth.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And I pinched the top of my gum because it was so tight. So I was talking away. So I was like, hey, hang on there a second. I was like, and then of course the guy was recording, and he's like, well, I cut it out. And I was like, no, do you know what? Leave it. So he put up this caption like, I bleed Arsenal. That was so funny.
Looking like 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 you got rabies or something. Hopefully that's got. I'm gonna have a smint now. Hopefully that'll help.
Yeah. That'll be cured.
If you like football films, then come check out the Triple F Cinema, where I'm joined by guests, sometimes football fans, sometimes not, to review a specific football film. Give me 2 tickets to that football film right now. Yeah, let's just get into Arsenal, man. It's where do we start with all of this? I suppose the best possibly that can you even call it the worst performance of the season? I don't know if you can, because there've been so many poor ones this season. It's possibly the biggest and the hardest one to take, because it kind of defines how shit this season really has been for us. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm still hurting. I'm still like really devastated and gutted by that. I had so much hopes pinned on that game, and we just went out with such a whimper. It was so poor, man. What's your thoughts on it?
It really was. It was, I guess, because I think the reason why this one hurts so bad is because obviously it's so fresh in the memory. It feels like the worst performance of the season because it was the season defining performance. All the hopes were pinned on this one game, and it feels like I say one game, but in reality, over the course of two games, we never showed up in either game. You know, we had two cracks at it, and it just feels like over the course of 180 minutes, we never really laid a glove on them. I know we got a penalty, but we never really looked like we were actually causing Villarreal much trouble. It didn't look as though the players realised they were in a European Cup semi-final.
No.
It didn't look as though they were thinking the way all the fans were. You know, we were saying this is a massive opportunity. You know, get ourselves Champions League football next season. You know, we like so much to play for, and I don't know. I didn't see that kind of reflected in the players in their performance. It was very very casual over the course of two legs. First leg especially, we just we gave them 90 minutes. We not playing a striker in that one was just madness. But the second one, they had everything to play for, everything to go for. We were the home team. You know, I'm probably being a little bit harsh to Villarreal, but I did not rate that Villarreal team. I really did not rate that Villarreal team, and I thought they were there for the taking had we showed up. But this is the problem I think with Arsenal this season. When the most important times have come up, we haven't showed up, and it seems to be, unfortunately, it's becoming a regular occurrence, as you said.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that sort of inconsistency has really been the sort of biggest issue for me. Because like you say, when, you know, we kind of need to show up and turn up, it just hasn't happened. I suppose it's probably happened 5 times this season. You can probably say the Spurs game, the United game, the Slavia Prague game was, I mean, you look at that and you could see that was pure desire from the players to do exactly what you were saying as well, where the fans just kind of want to see you drive and see the players just do what all the fans are willing those players to do. And they did it in that Slavia Prague game. But you could possibly argue that they needed to do it more. Well, they definitely did need to do it more against Villarreal on Thursday. But there was just nothing. It was just absolutely piss poor. I don't get it with this side, how they just seem to, like I said, with those sort of brief moments, they show desire, they show willingness, like they did against Spurs. They show this pure commitment to the badge. But then games like against Villarreal on Thursday, they just show absolutely nothing. I don't know what it is. I mean, have you got any sort of idea or clue as to why it's been so inconsistent this year?
You know, I've been asking the same questions, and like that, we've pulled it out of the bag a couple of times this season, and kind of what I've said a few times is, if you look at who we've beaten and who we've lost to, we seem to have this. I don't know whether it's a kind of ego problem within the squad or what the deal is, but we go into a fixture, you know, okay, we're having a poor season. And if you bring it right back to that run of games we had coming up to Christmas time, 7 without a win, we were playing Chelsea and everybody had overlooked that fixture and said, okay, look, we'll wait till West Brom a week later and hopefully we'll get a result there and that'll kickstart their season. So we went into that Chelsea game, no expectation to win. And we went out and beat them 3-1. You know, we got the 3 points. I think it was 3-1 in the end, wasn't it? 3-1.
Yeah, it was 3-1. Yeah.
Memory's not the best.
No.
We got the result against them when it wasn't expected. So then, of course, you expect us to kick on then, you know, against the likes of Burnley. We lose 1-0, the Aubameyang own goal. We play Leicester. We're not supposed to beat Leicester. We beat Leicester. We're not supposed to beat Tottenham. We beat Tottenham. We're not supposed to get anything against Man United. We get a draw against Man United. And then you flip it around and it's games where you're saying, okay, look, we should get something here. I know they were on good form, but, you know, West Ham, I go 3-0 down after half an hour. We did pull it back to 3-3, but it seems to be when we approach these games as a favour, or else, you know, people are saying, well, you should get something here. That's when we don't seem to show up. And then it's when it almost feels like when the squad is being told, yeah, look, we'll do well to get something here tonight. It's almost as though they kind of, then they go, okay, we'll show you something here. Because even looking at the Europa League run, I think the whole run has been, it was pretty kind to us, to be completely honest. And it felt as though the squad kind of knew that. It felt as though, you know, they approached the Benfica game and sort of said, yeah, look, we should have enough about us to get through. And of course, we saw what happened in the first game. We didn't really show up. But at the same time, don't think Benfica really offered too much that kind of convinced me that we weren't going to beat them had we showed up. So, of course, the second leg we did show up. We just about got through. It was kind of the same story against Olympiacos. We did enough in the first leg that the lads decided they didn't have to show up for the second leg, and we lost the second leg, but we did enough to go through. Slavia Prague was the same. You know, we were supposed to beat Slavia Prague pretty easy. So, of course, we drew with them. And then you see we beat them comfortably when we had to. So I actually said this to a guy on a previous show. My biggest fear coming into the Villarreal game is the fact that I feel as though, you know, we all feel and the squad feels as though we should beat Villarreal. And I think that's when Arsenal are dangerous, dangerous to themselves. Because possibly had we played a Man United in the semi-final, or someone a little bit better that maybe people have been saying, you know, don't fancy Arsenal's chances, that's when we might have showed up. Because, you know, if you look at how we played the season, that is when we showed up. So, yeah, it seems to be, there's definitely a mentality or ego issue or something. It's just, I guess, finding the root of the problem is you know, we need to find, is it coming from the coach? Is it players within the squad? I said for a long time that I believe the whole mentality around the squad was off, and Arteta did remove a lot of players. So, you know, you kind of get to a point where you start saying, how many more do you get rid of before you kind of start asking the questions of the coaches and you know, everyone else involved?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's for me why next season is such a crunch season, because he'll be left with a majority of his squad. Essentially, he'll have, I'd say, about 80% of his own players then, and then there's just nowhere he can hide. The buck will firmly fall at his feet. So we really, I mean, we knew this from the start of this season, that next season was going to be more crucial. And I think most fans kind of gave Arteta this bit of patience, and I think the board did as well. They said, "Look, you've essentially got a free hit this season. I just wish it wasn't as much of a low bar that he's brought the team down to." But I mean, I suppose you could look at it as next season being, that's the real crunch. That's the real time where Arteta really has to show us. And that's why recruitment is so essential as well. But I mean, just sort of going back to the sort of confidence issue and the complacency issue as well. I mean, did you catch Arteta's sort of post-match conference? Because he said that he knows what the issue is in the dressing room. It's just something that he couldn't disclose. So it was, for me, that was interesting, because it's now obviously that's just putting a load of question marks in the fans' heads and everyone's heads, thinking, what on earth could that thing be? Any ideas as to what on earth he's alluding to?
Yeah, well, it was like when it went back to kind of January, and he didn't single anybody out, but he basically said, look, he knows who the kind of negative influences are in and around the dressing room, and of course we, you know, there was talks of somebody was leaking information and that, and he came out and he basically said, look, he knows where this is coming from. And we seen who left, and of course we all sort of said, right, you know, Ozil's gone, Mustafi's gone, Kolasinac, Socrates, all these are, you know, big personalities in the dressing room. And I think we kind of said, look, he's weeded out the issue here, and what he's left with are his players, as you said. You know, he might have inherited a lot of that squad, but I think a lot of those guys are there for him, and I believed that, you know, they believed in what he was trying to do. So yeah, it sort of has taken me by surprise the way it's kind of gone, especially over the last couple of weeks, it's starting to feel like there's cracks forming there. And even with Arteta himself, I've sort of got to the stage where I almost stopped listening to his conferences now, and I kind of stopped. I'd say over a month ago, I stopped really listening because I sort of feel like he speaks well. He's quite good at the whole PR game, where he will say just enough to, you know, sort of acknowledge that there's an issue without telling you, because of course he's not Jose Mourinho. He's not gonna throw the players under the bus.
No.
He's an intelligent guy as well. So, you know, even if there's issues, he's not gonna come out and say, you know, well, this player isn't doing this player isn't doing that, because he's trying to keep them all on side and he's trying to, you know, keep the confidence. So he is an intelligent guy like that. But yeah, I just feel he's got very it's almost like kind of watching the news report or something with him. You're kind of going, you know what, you're giving me something, but you're not telling me the full story here. So I find it a little bit boring now at this stage. You know, like I kind of almost know what he's going to say. And again, like that, you know, we're seeing one thing on the pitch, and he's telling us something different. Like that game the other night, for example, you know, we had basically, I guess you could say, 2 attempts on goal. You know, we hit the post twice, and he's kind of come out and said, well, you know, I feel we should have won that game. And I kind of gone, I don't, to be honest. I know we hit the post twice. We were lucky not to convert it, but do I feel like we should have won the game? I don't think so. And I just feel that the whole time from him now, you know, we're looking at statistics, and I know stats don't tell the whole story, but like you look at a performance and we'll create maybe 2 or 3 opportunities in a game, and then he's saying, well, we were quite unlucky not to have got a result. Whereas, you know, the eye test, as they call it, you know, what we're seeing, I'm not quite seeing where we were unlucky. And I think a lot of fans have got to that stage where they're sort of saying, you know, what are you seeing that we're not seeing here? And I think even with certain players, we'll probably talk about him at some point, but Willian, for example, like he clung on to Willian for the longest time. And of course, when you're hearing, you know, again, it's good PR, and you're not going to throw someone under the bus, but you're coming out and saying, well, you know, he's been impressive in training and he's doing everything I ask him to do and that. But again, it's what happens on the pitch that counts at the end of the day, you know. So yeah, in terms of like Arteta and the way he speaks and that, yeah, again, I sort of feel he's kind of, he tells you enough that you sort of want to hear, but I don't know if I fully believe in what he's saying anymore.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Because what sort of gets me riled up the most about Arteta is how it appears as if he kind of disciplines a lot of his players from what they do off the pitch, and it sort of gives these mixed messages as well. Because I'll use 2 players as an example, Willian and Aubameyang, where he's pretty much disciplined them for. So I think he's sort of lightly disciplined Willian for the Dubai incident, and then he obviously disciplined Aubameyang before the Spurs game because he was turning up late for training. But then what he also does is not discipline them on the same hand, or sort of doesn't use meritocracy when it comes to their performances on the pitch. We can see, every man and his dog could see that Aubameyang and Willian have been absolutely dreadful and they needed dropping. Arteta just decided to just carry on and proceed with playing them game after game after game. And it's like, okay, so you'll sort of set these disciplines, and you say that, you know, there's these non-negotiables or whatever it is, but what do they actually mean? Like what's so important about, you know, a non-negotiable off the pitch? If it's is that more important than playing shit on the field? I don't think it is. And especially if it's the same players as well that you're sort of holding those principles over. Like, what kind of message is that sending? It's so, I don't know, it's so infuriating for me, and one I really can't understand.
I think the reason why it's so frustrating is because it was Arteta himself that came out and said these things, you know, about the non-negotiable, the list of non-negotiables, and, you know, the fact that everyone's place is going to be, you know, built on merit. And then, as you said, you how long can Aubameyang underperform? How long can Willian underperform and still justify a place in the team? And of course, you look at Aubameyang last season and the season before, and we know how important he is when he's clicking and he's on form. And like we said all last season, what would this squad look like without the goals of Aubameyang? And unfortunately, we saw what it looks like this season. But how long can a player live off of past performances and past success? I mean, you can't do it. And again, I know people will say, look, his goals are that important, but it got to a point where he wasn't scoring. It's not that he was even trying. He was a passenger on the pitch for a long time. And again, Willian was there as well, and that was two passengers on the pitch, and you can't have that. And then you have guys like I'm glad he finally got his chance when he did, Emile Smith-Rowe, and once he got the opportunity, you could see the difference. He grasped it and he made himself undroppable. And I guess this is why people are pretty upset now about Martinelli.
Definitely.
Martinelli again is another player. Look, everybody loves Martinelli, and it's the work rate and the desire and the hunger he has, and you're saying to yourself, you have kids like this, and I know they're only kids, and you can't rely on them for a full season. I completely understand that, but give them a chance. Give them an opportunity. When you have these guys, moping around the pitch, don't look like they want to be there at all. Give it to the hungry kid that's sitting on the pitch. Let him have his opportunity to get in and make a name for himself and stake a claim. And he's got something to fight for. And this is what's frustrated so many people about Arteta. And I think this is why people have lost that bit of confidence, because again, he said so much at the beginning that got us all so excited. When we all heard this, list of non-negotiables, and this is how it's going to be. This is how it's going to be. I know myself. I was saying, this is great because, with all due respect to Arsene Wenger, I loved Arsene Wenger and everything he did. But it felt as though, he would never come out against the board and tell it as it was. And we knew, his hands were tied. We knew he only had so much to work with. And he would always, face up and sort of, it's nothing to do with this. It's my decision. There's money available, all this. And we're kind of going, look, we're not stupid here. We know. But I kind of thought it was going to be different when Arteta came in. I kind of thought he's not a yes man. He's not the type that's going to sit there and
call a spade sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's the impression I got at the beginning. Especially look, a former club captain and that, and you've got to have a certain trait, a certain personality to be a leader and a club captain. So yeah, I think we were all kind of rubbing our hands together, going, okay, he hasn't got the experience, but as long as he has the right attitude and mentality, he can get something out of this squad. He can get something out of the owners, out of this board. But yeah, the longer and longer it's gone on, the more, as I said, it feels like it's all PR. And yeah, I'm telling you this thing because it's going to buy me a few months, and then eventually we're going to start saying, "Hang on, you told us that, but we're not seeing the actions of this." And yeah, I think again, people are sort of saying he's more a yes man than we were expecting, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's exactly like you say, because I think there's only so much talking you can do until fans and people realise that you're kind of talking shit essentially. So it's like, and I think with Arteta as well, it's a big case for next season is, and I suppose like the whole trust the process has been about getting these essential weeds out of the club and getting these bad eggs out of the club. But what we'll see is next season, who's the real bad weed? Is it the players? Because Mikel Arteta could be a bad weed himself.
Like on Facebook, follow on Twitter, subscribe to YouTube, do all that shit, please.
are you Arteta in or Arteta out? Like, how do you sort of label yourself as a Arteta person right now?
Yeah, look, I know everybody's been asked that question all season, and I've kind of always said I'm not Arteta in, I'm not Arteta out, but I was kind of calling myself Arteta sympathetic, because he wouldn't have been my choice for the job, because I just thought this is a big job, you know, outside of the fact that it's a massive club, massive fan base. We've been underachieving, but the expectations are still high. So, you know, you're not walking into an easy environment. Even the Emirates, you know, no, look, COVID and all that. There was no, you know, fans in the stadium. But look, on a regular match day, it's a hostile environment at best. Then we had COVID and we had all other issues going on. So you gave the job to a first-time guy. That this is a big job for an experienced manager to take on. You know, Unai Emery, look, again, a little bit unfortunate perhaps, but you could kind of see the way it was going with Emery, and he's a very experienced coach. I know there was factors, maybe the communication and whatever other, but this guy has managed around the world. You know, he's had a few big jobs himself.
Yeah,
it became a bit much for him to handle. So yeah, it would not have been my first choice to give this job to Mikel Arteta. But as I said, he got the job, so I was fully behind him, fully supportive of him, and I was fully aware of the overall size of the job. I always looked at it as this is so much more than what we're going to see on the pitch, you know, on a Saturday or a Sunday. You know, this is a guy walking into a job, and he has an owner who is completely absent, who, let's be fair, doesn't really care, because this is just a money spinner for him. All it is just to fund his NFL venture. So basically, you've got owners who don't give a shit. You've got guys on the board. You know, we saw what happened with Rose, and yeah, he was, you know, accepting backhanders and brown envelopes left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
Ivan Gazidis went running. You know, you're left with, you know, Vinay, who, you know, took on a role that was completely new to him. You brought in Edu, who was very inexperienced. You know, his director of football role, he'd only previous experience, I think, with the Brazil national side and Corinthians. His first job in Europe. So, you know, when you broke it down, Arteta's first season in management this season as a full manager, because remember last season, even when he went on to win the FA Cup, he was only the head coach. It was this season he was basically handed the keys and said, okay, look, you're full-time manager, so you're running everything now. And he's only got Edu and Vinay behind him. And I sort of came into the season and I said, you know, I'm hopeful, but I'm not very expectant, you know, of where we can actually go with this. So yeah, like I said, I was never a fan of the idea of him getting the job, but I was willing to give him time, give him a chance. And look, it hasn't been all bad. Like, I have seen things that I've liked, but I'll be completely honest. The last couple of weeks have left me questioning an awful lot. And look, I had myself convinced from early in the season, even when we hit that bad patch, I was convinced at the very least he's probably going to get to Christmas next season anyway. So whether I wanted him there or not, I was living with the idea that he was going to get the summer transfer window, which is probably fair. It's probably fair to at least give him that. He'll probably see us through to maybe Christmas time if it's not working out, unless the start of next season is a complete disaster. So I did have that in mind. But yeah, no, I'll be honest, in terms of where I am, whether I'm happy about him being there or not at this very moment, I'm a bit cautious. I'm starting to lean slightly more on the side of, if, and I know it's not going to happen, this is a hypothetical, but if somebody more experienced came available at the end of the season and it was a good fit for the club, I would be happy for us to explore that option. I don't believe that's going to happen. I think we're going to stick with him regardless. So look, we stick with him. I'll get behind him. I'll support him. But yeah, I'm very much, look, whatever's best for Arsenal is good for me, and whether that's sticking with Arteta or whether that's replacing Arteta, whatever is the right move for us as a club, that's the way I'm happy to go.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I'm pretty much the same as you, Anthony, because I remember writing a blog about it before Arteta was appointed, because I think there was 4 candidates at the time. I think Pochettino, Allegri, and Nuno Espirito Santos at Wolves, and Arteta obviously were all in contention for the Arsenal job. So I remember writing a sort of a piece for a case for each manager to say that why I think they'd be a good fit, and I sort of gave my sort of personal opinions on it as well. And essentially, Arteta was my 4th choice out of all of those. But as soon as he got appointed, I was the same as you. I'm an Arsenal fan through and through. So whether, I mean, there are a lot of fans that don't sort of follow the same template as you and I do, and they kind of put their own sort of opinions and feelings before the club, whereas with me, I'm sure yourself as well, you put the club first. So yeah, you back the club no matter what, and yeah, I was happy to support Arteta and to see what happened. And like you say, after winning the FA Cup and after the great performances that we have seen under Arteta and the flashes of brilliance at times where Arteta has shown like managerial sort of masterclasses at times. I think the United game was one, the Spurs game as well, just to show real brilliance in the lineups and the way that he sort of went about those games. So he's shown reasons to be cheerful, but he's also shown a lot of reasons to be not so cheerful. And I think, I think the last few games have been the same for me. So I've kind of been pretty much the same as you. I don't know if you call it sitting on the fence, but I'm not the type of fan that likes to sort of get militant and sort of tell everybody what my opinions are. I just kind of, I just sort of have, especially lately, the last couple of months, have just been so unsure about what the direction is, about where we're supposed to be going as a team, seeing what the identity of the team is supposed to be. I mean, it's been really, really hard, but I suppose what gives me a little bit of hope, and this is kind of irregardless to Arteta, it could be any manager that's in there right now. One thing that is positive is the players that we've got. We've got a lot of great foundations that the club can be built on, and I think Saka, Emil Smith-Rowe, Partey. I mean, Partey hasn't been great. He's not kind of shown the sort of level of promise that we were all kind of expecting from him as of yet. But we know that there's quality in there, and we know that, definitely. Absolutely, there's definitely a player in there, and he's definitely one that sort of excites me, at least for the future. And then you look at sort of Gabriel. That, you know, there are some real quality players in there that really sort of represent a great future for the club. So that kind of gives me a bit of hope. But when the manager's sort of making decisions like playing a false 9 in the first leg of a Europa League, it just makes you wonder. Like,
it's almost with his tactics, like he tries a bit too hard at times. And like, if you kind of think back to that Man City game when he played Willian as his false 9, and you kind of said, like, you know what, if this works, you might be onto something. It didn't work. It backfired horribly. And then he tried the false 9 again against Villarreal. And maybe had that been the first time we'd seen that, we might have been going, okay, hang on, he might be onto something here. But again, it just didn't work. And I kind of feel like when he comes up against coaches like that, Pep Guardiola, Emery, it's like, you know, he's going to do something overly tactical instead of just, you know what, it's okay to go back to basics if basics is what works. And I kind of feel like that with a lot of the players in this squad. Like, I've questioned the kind of football and IQ of a lot of our players. Like, we've a lot of talent in the side, but at the same time, there's a lot of average players. I'm being kind to a lot of players here by calling them average at best. But I think a lot of players in that side, you would probably get the best out of them if you let them play a bit more basic. And I know we all want, you know, the beautiful football, you know, the the Wenger ball we used to see. But I think sometimes you have to accept, and I think this is where Arteta kind of, I don't know whether it's a stubbornness in him that he's not willing to accept, but I think you have to sometimes look at the squad of players you have, and instead of expecting them to work to what you want them to do, sometimes you got to play to their strengths. And I questioned, it is a style that everyone seems to be adopting. You know, you play it back to the goalkeeper and he takes a touch and you play out from the back. And when it works and we do it well, it works brilliantly. But at times we're under such unnecessary pressure. And I'm sort of saying, you know, do we have the players to play that kind of game? Would we benefit? For the longest time, I just said, you know, would we benefit from Bert Leno just kicking the ball along? And it got to a point with Bert Leno where you said, look, do not play the ball back to him, because it was happening quite regular. I think he did it 2 games in a row, and he'd only done something stupid in the Europa League game a couple of weeks beforehand. So you can see now he switches it up a little bit. But I look at times and I sort of say, he could well be a brilliant coach. He could be a brilliant manager. He might have fantastic ideas in his head. Whether he has the group of players that can execute the game plan he wants, I feel like sometimes he's over-coaching and he's, you know, overdoing the tactics. And I think where it kind of came to light a bit for me as well is now not having fans in the stadium. And, you know, if you're sitting here and you're watching a game on TV without the fake crowd sounds, you hear Arteta all game. You know, he's barking out instructions all game. He doesn't let up for a second. And you're kind of going, you know what? Like, these guys should be drilled enough on the training ground, you know, all week, that once they get out there on the pitch, they should understand what they're doing. If you need to be coaching them, you know, for 90 minutes straight, something isn't right. They're clearly not getting it in their head if you need to still be instructing them, you know. And of course, look, as the game goes on, you're going to be giving instructions, but he seems to be all game giving instructions. And I'm kind of now questioning, do the players fully understand what they're able to do? And maybe they do, but are the players talented enough to do what you want them to do? And I suppose this is why, like you, I'm kind of saying, you know, we give him a transfer window and let him build his squad and see, okay, if he can bring in the players that he believes can do this, maybe we might see something completely different. But yeah, it could be a stubborn trait in Arteta that he's not willing to accept. You know, he may not have the players to do what he wants to do. Maybe he has to be able to change to suit them as well.
Yeah. I suppose that is one thing that we, as Arsenal fans, have to look out for next season. But I mean, for me, also, what concerns me is as well when I compare this to other managers that are kind of undergoing this similar process with their teams. I suppose like the first one that I'll go to is sort of Brendan Rodgers, just because with him, I mean, you look at that Leicester team before he went in there. I think they were, you know, sort of mid-table, pretty much where we are now, really. Probably a little bit lower. And as soon as he went in there, you know, that the pro, because I think he's been in there 2-3 seasons now, and they've been absolutely chalk and cheese to before, to sort of, you know, where they were before. So I think, you know, if you look at that, he's always been able to improve on what was there before. Whereas with Arteta, we're going down. It's almost like, what is the process? Is it essentially a process if you're actually going further down the table? I don't know. And you could say with Leicester, oh, you know, they've had great players. But I'm sorry, when Rodgers went in there, the same set of players, because he went in actually sort of halfway through the season, and he had the same players that Claude Puel had, and Claude Puel couldn't get a tune out of them, but Brendan Rodgers could. So for me, the argument that I'm trying to make here is that I think there are brilliant managers that can get players to play at a better level and a higher level. And I'm just a little bit concerned as to, you know, is Arteta one of those guys? Because, I mean, he hasn't really shown much to sort of say that he is. But I suppose the FA Cup, I think the FA Cup, that kind of has sort of allowed fans and possibly the board just to say, look, there's obviously something there. But yeah, for me, that is a little bit concerning, because I always think that great managers are able to get players playing to a higher level. And I want to see that from Arteta. And I suppose next season is the crunch one, because I suppose if you were to compare it to another manager that I suppose gives you a bit more hope as an Arsenal fan, is David Moyes. Because I think with David Moyes, the first time he was at West Ham, I mean, they were dreadful. Man, I think that was possibly down to the players. But you look at West Ham now, with good recruitment in there, and obviously Jesse Lingard's absolutely on fire at the moment as well. With that, yeah, exactly, mate. I mean, I think he was linked to us at times. I was like, nah, not a chance. But I'd take him in a heartbeat now with the way that he's playing. But I suppose with that decent recruitment there, he's shown that you can take a team to a higher level. So hopefully that gives me a little bit of hope going forward with Arteta, at least.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. I guess even if you look at the likes of, I guess an easy comparison to make, but Frank Lampard, when he was able to spend the money, he wasn't able to get anything out of the players he brought in, and now Tuchel has come in and look what he's done, and it just goes to show, sometimes, okay, it's up to the players to perform, but I think if the players lose confidence in the manager and what they're being instructed to do and what they're being told to do, they'll switch off. Obviously Tuchel's come in and he's singing the right tune to them, and they're performing for him, and he's getting what he needs from them, and it's a complete turnaround. So I guess that's part of what's made me question also, if Arteta is the guy, because you look at the squad and you kind of go, are we as bad as 10th place? And of course, I don't think we're an awful lot better, to be honest. Like I said this at the start of the season, like I said to people, I think this squad will struggle to get top 6. We've a few talented players in the team, but I just think as a squad, I think maybe you've 6, 7, 8 of a 25-man squad that you're saying, these players are quite good. These are probably top 6, maybe a handful might be top 4 players, but as a 25-man squad, I didn't think we were top 6. I didn't think we'd be as bad as 10th, I'll be honest. Now, I thought maybe when I said we won't be top 6, I thought maybe we get 7th, maybe 8th if we didn't perform. But yeah, look, a new man with more experience, might get that extra 10, 20% out of an individual, out of an overall squad, and that could be the difference to give you the push to, get your top 6. But yeah, like the guys you used there, like Brendan Rodgers, perfect example. He came in, took over an underperforming squad. So it is possibly, it could be down to the manager. Could be down to a combination of things. I do still think, if we had brought in somebody like Tuchel, I do believe he would get a little bit more out of this squad. But I still think in the long run, this squad is only going to go so far. Definitely, as I said, I didn't think it was going to be a top 6 squad, so I definitely didn't see us being top 4. But look, recruitment is major. It's absolutely major, and at the moment, not many clubs are doing it better than Leicester. Given the resources that they have, and it's definitely a model I would like us to kind of emulate, because even today I was seeing, they were linked with selling Ndidi to Man United for potentially 3 times what they bought him for, when they've already got Samare lined up as a replacement. And this is the smart business. They sold Harry Maguire 80 million. They had Soyuncu ready to come in, who's every bit as good, if not better. And they've become masters of this. They've a guy who lead, because you thought, when Mahrez and Kante go, that's Leicester going back down.
Yeah.
They'd be 15th next season. They'd be 16th. They'll eventually get relegated. But look, they're up there, and I know going through not the best of patches right now, but it's been a very solid season for Leicester.
Yeah.
But they're kind of the benchmark I'd use. I do worry about our recruitment. I definitely do, because as I said, like, who have we got kind of pulling the strings back there. Like, is it Arteta? You know, again, inexperienced guy. He's new to the transfer market, and you know, is it him? Is it Edu, Vinay involved? It comes down to even if the Cronkies turned around and again they're telling us, you know, we're serious, we're going to invest, you know, all that we've heard all that before.
Yeah.
So, but even if they were to turn around and hand, you know, 200 million to spend and that, you know, do I fully trust the guys we have to make the right choices and recruit wisely? I'm not confident. I'll be completely honest. I'm not confident.
Yeah, no, me neither, mate. I think I've probably sung this song so many times, but it really comes down to next season being such a crunch one in terms of the recruitment as well for this transfer window. It's really going to show us whether the recruitment team is any good or not. Essentially, it's going to show us that if Edu really is going to make his money's worth, because I suppose there have been a few sort of promising signs, especially if you just look at the last transfer window, bringing in the likes of Partey, Gabriel. You know, there's some really brilliant signings there. I suppose the loan signing of Odegaard, it hasn't perhaps been as brilliant as it possibly could do, but you know, there's some movement there to show that it's pretty decent, and as if we kind of carry that on, then it should be okay. But if we sign the likes of Willian again, it's really gonna, you know, I just can't take another Chelsea reject. I just don't think that model, that way of conducting your transfer business is right. So it's really going to show us a lot next season, and a lot for the transfer window.
Like finding out as much as you can about clubs you've heard of and those you haven't? Then come check out The Magic Of, where we delve as deep as possible into the rich history of weird and wacky clubs all over the world.
In terms of the sort of the most important and the crucial positions that we need to fill for the pitch, what would you kind of say?
Where do we start?
Yeah.
You know, I'm actually looking at the squad and I'm kind of saying, is there any position that, you know, you could say someone is absolutely, you know, irreplaceable in their spot? Like, I'm looking at, okay, Kieran Tierney, I'm completely happy with as a left back. My only concern is, can he keep him fit for a season? So we know we need a backup to Kieran Tierney. The way I'd like to go about it is like a young understudy for him that's kind of happy enough to come in and, you know, play the odd game, cup games and that. I don't really have any lists of names or anything like that for a left back, but definitely look, it's a position I think we need to be looking at. In terms of right back as well, right back, yeah, I have a feeling it looks as though Bellerin is going to be gone. Cedric is okay. Again, Chambers is just okay. We could definitely improve.
Yeah, they're both deputies at best, really, aren't they? That's the thing.
Yeah. Again, do you know the kind of attitude I have with the majority of the squad is, if the right offer came in for pretty much, I'd say 90% of the squad, I would be willing to do business. Again, I'm not saying sell 11 players, anything like that. I'm just saying, if you had to sell maybe 2 players or 3 players, I'd be considering a lot. Do you know what I mean? If the right options came in, but yeah, in terms of a right back, kind of the names that I was looking at for right back, obviously Lamptey has come up, who I think is a very good player. Again, my only concern is, I think he's only 21 and he's had some pretty serious injury issues already, and I think that's the issue we've kind of had with Bellerin. You know, he showed so much promise at a young age and he's had some serious injuries, and it's really hampered his progress. So I'd probably be a bit cautious with Lamptey, as much as I do like him as a player. Max Aarons is another one, but I'm sort of saying, how realistic is he going to be? Because, you know, there's supposed to be clubs like Bayern Munich, Barcelona, and all looking at this guy. So again, no European football for Arsenal. we're going to be a harder sell for, young, ambitious players. So a player that I've looked at that I'm thinking maybe more reasonable for us in terms of fee and, attraction is Matty Cash from Aston Villa.
Right.
I think it's a good player, and again, I think I've had this conversation with people a lot about the kind of, we've called it sort of snobbery within the fan base with certain players and certain names. And of course, look, we all want, a Thomas Partey, a Champions League caliber player from Atletico Madrid. But I think we've got to be clever, especially because we're not sure what finances we're going to have. We're going to have to be a bit smarter with our recruitment. So a couple of names that I have, again, midfield. I like Basuma. I know everyone's talking about Basuma. I like Basuma. Again, some people are saying he's playing for Brighton, he's not good enough. I see a perfectly capable player. Again, I don't think we can afford to turn our nose up. We're sitting in 10th. We might finish 10th in the table. Can we be turning our nose up to a Brighton player, an Aston Villa player? I don't think it's realistic that we're going to be going out signing, players from the top 4 in La Liga or Serie A or whoever. So I like the likes of Basuma, and funny enough, I should say Serie A. The next guy actually plays for AC Milan, but Kessie that plays for AC.
Right. Yeah.
I really like the look at him. I don't think he's realistic, but I like the look at him. Who else have I got? I have a big list. Again, we need a midfielder, like a creative force, because I'm a bit on the fence with Odegaard. I can see what he offers on his day. Fitness again is a bit of a concern for me. He showed me glimpses of, again, there's so much potential. I think he 22, 23, so much room for improvement. I think we may have priced ourselves out of the market now, the fact that we've not got European football, because he's going to have plenty of suitors that can offer him European football. So it could be a case of, one, if the price tag is right, because to me, he's not a £50 million acquisition, not at this moment in time.
No.
So, 40, 50 was the figure being talked about. I'd be looking closer to 25, 30 at a stretch. And I don't think that's happening.
No.
So I don't see that. I don't see that happening. I guess, look, if it was an option, maybe he may be buying into Arteta's project, and he may be saying to himself, well, look, I know I can be an important part of this team. But look, he can possibly get that elsewhere. I know Sociedad were looking at him again, so may go back there. Even Emi Buendia, again, a lot of people turn their nose up. He plays for Norwich. He's in the Championship. Even if you looked at his stats, the season he got relegated from the Premier League, he was up there, with the top 10 players for, statistic-wise, like, definitely a good player. But again, they've just been promoted, and we know the big cash injection that comes with a promoted side. Do they need to sell him now? That's the thing. Can they afford to hang on to him a little bit longer? Because, the supposed 50 million we were going to give them, 6 months ago, do they need that money now? Now that they're really TV rights, all that. So he might be difficult. I've also Yazici for Lille, who's quite a good player. The Turkish lad, 7 goals, 4 assists. What we're missing, I think, is it's going to sound funny to say this, but I think what we're missing is a Joe Willock style of player. And I know Joe Willock is an Arsenal player and will come back at the end of the season. Joe Willock has kicked on massively since he's gone to Newcastle, and I'm really liking the progress he's made, because I've always sort of questioned, is he going to be of the right level? And I love the idea of Willock going out on a loan, and we're definitely seeing the benefits of it. I just don't know. I don't know whether that may be his level,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to see him come back, because he's a Hay Lane graduate, and we want to see these guys kick on and become legends at the club. I just don't know with Willock. I mean, I think he played 40 odd games for his last season, and we've seen glimpses more so. I think Europa League, we kind of see the best of Joe Willock. So that's why I do wonder, will he excel at a club maybe with lesser expectations than Arsenal, like Newcastle
Yeah.
at the moment. So hopefully not. And I guess like quickly then, definitely think we need a new striker. We definitely need a new striker. And the two names that I have on my wish list, and it's not Mbappe and it's not Haaland. I looking at the likes of Ollie Watkins, and one who I think is probably not realistic, but I would love us to be able to sign would be Calvert-Lewin. I just think that kind of, big, quick, both guys, supposedly both Arsenal fans. You never know.
Yeah.
So, but I guess pretty wishful thinking. But again, I'm sort of looking at these clubs that are in and around where we are positioning. I know Everton are a little bit above us, but they're not a million miles. Again, Aston Villa, I think we've got to be so clever, so clever. Again, we don't know how much exactly we're going to have to spend. So I think, we've maybe got to forget about looking at these guys who are playing European football and the guys who are kind of just below, because look, I think those guys would be well capable of improving our squad. If you wanted to know who I'm selling, that could be a whole podcast altogether.
I think I'll probably just have to sort of round things off, if that's cool, dude.
Yeah, cool, yeah, all good.
But yeah, no, it was just what you were saying about sort of a lot of Arsenal fans sort of scoffing at the idea of let's say an Aston Villa player or a Newcastle player or just any sort of player from that level coming to the club. For me, it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't see the sort of relevance in that, because I suppose a player that is a real good example of that is Gigi Wijnaldum, because I think Liverpool bought him from Newcastle when they got relegated. So you can say, oh, why on earth would you buy a player from a relegated team? That's ridiculous, blah blah blah. But he's gone on and he's won a freaking Premier League and the Champions League. So
Andy Robertson a whole as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Shaqiri, I know he's only kind of a bit part player, but you can definitely pick off these clubs. Like the thing that I kind of always say to Arsenal fans when they kind of go, oh, we should be signing guys of a higher level, higher caliber. So think back to the Arsene Wenger days. First of all, who knew who Arsene Wenger was when we signed him from the Japanese club Nagoya?
Yeah, exactly.
I know he coached Monaco on that, but at the time, how many Arsenal fans really knew about his background? You're kind of going, David Dean's bringing in this French guy from the Japanese league. And what was he famous for? Discovering these gems. He brought in, Kolo Toure and players like that. And at the time, you were like, who are these guys? A 16-year-old, 15, 16-year-old Cesc Fabregas and
Patrick Vieira.
All these players, Emmanuel Petit, none of us had ever heard of any of these guys and went on to be, absolute legends of the club. So, I guess, bring it back to our most successful era. This is what we did. We
be savvy, be coy. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So the players are out there. Just because we haven't heard of them or they're not really on our radar, it doesn't discount them as, perfectly credible, talented players.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Because I mean, if you look at other clubs, and I've felt this for a while, it's like, why can't we be making, Wilfred and Ndidi? Why can't we be making, these sort of players instead of having to wait for them to sort of develop and flourish, and then we pick them off, and then obviously their prices are inflated. It doesn't make much sense to me, man. But hopefully with Edu, we'll start to see that a bit more, because I suppose you could kind of look at the Gabriel Martinelli signings as being one of those typical sort of classic Arsenal signings where it was just a sort of diamond in the dirt, and then we all know how great the kid is and how great it will go to be, and essentially Gabriel as well, the Lille centre back. Well, he's our centre back now. I think at the time, I think we saw, he was quite a promising player, but I think now, if we have him, well, we're going to have him for quite a long time. He can really, hopefully, with him and Saliba, solidify. Saliba's another topic that we'll have to get onto another time, but hopefully him and Saliba can really cement themselves as our future centre backs for the next few years. But that's going to be one that, like I said, the Saliba discussion is one we'll have to have for another time, my friend.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, man. Yeah, thanks again so much for coming on, Anthony. I really appreciate it. First of all, I also just need to apologise because I think the first time I contacted you on Twitter, I actually called you Andy by mistake.
I get caught so much worse. Don't worry.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. But yeah. I hope you noticed, but I've been calling you Anthony from now on.
Yeah. I did notice the Andy thing. I will go back and look now.
Yeah, you can rinse me on that one, man. It's all good. I might leave the cough in the edit as well. Let's see how it goes.
We put it in the blooper reel for after.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, definitely.
It makes it more natural, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. Hopefully it'll go viral or something.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks again, buddy, and all the best, man.
Yeah, cheers. Enjoyed it.
Cheers, mate. Thank you so much for listening to the Triple F. If you could please drop a like on our Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on Twitter, that would be massively appreciated. Hope you're all keeping safe, and thanks again for listening to the Triple F.